Well, let me attempt to speak to that perhaps under three categories. First of all, the significance of the relationship with TBN. Perhaps secondly, partnership, and then maybe thirdly, the possible pitfalls. Um, I think as in my experience with dealing with in a relationship with Theological Book Network, um, one can speak of the significance of this relationship and partnership. Perhaps I could backtrack and and for a minute just go one step back and look at sort of a different context, but the larger context of what we're dealing with now in Kenya, following the post-election violence. Um, Now, it seems to me that what happened in Kenya in the end of December 2007 was largely a vote of non-confidence in our major institutions, the presidency, the courts, the electoral commission, even the church. So that the big need in Kenya at this moment is really for institutional building, building institutions of integrity that would stand the test of time and building capacity. Um, I would suggest that it's in that sense then that I think our relationship, and not just ours, but what TBN does with other institutions in the majority world, is significant in terms of institution building and capacity building. One of the key elements in any good educational institution, especially higher education, and putting on my president's hat, is library and library development. Because unless you have an excellent library, whether it's electronic or traditional books, a combination of those, but you do need an excellent library in terms of institutional development and capacity building. And and TBN then comes beside us in developing that capacity, in building our institutions with respect to equipping the institutions with books. So it seems to me that's a tremendous significance there. That what TBN, or this tremendous significance of what TBN does in terms of helping institutions to develop their own capacity. So this is not sort of dumping things down the throats of the institutions, as it were, but working with the institutions in terms of what their vision is, helping them to build capacity as they move forward. And I not only endorse that, I affirm that very strongly. I think it's a very significant ministry TBN has, and one that we greatly appreciate. In terms of partnership, I tend to think that partnership is, first of all, built on relationships. I was in a meeting somewhere here in the U.S. A couple of years ago, and the first question that was asked was, how do we ensure accountability? And at some point in the discussion, I had to say, I'm not sure that for me that's where it starts. It doesn't start with, for me, with accountability. For me, my prior question is relationship. Let's get to know each other. Let's develop a relationship. And then what's a common vision? Do we share a common vision? And as we explore and develop our relationship, we can explore vision. And out of that, trust comes. And because we have a relationship, because I trust you, then I become accountable to you. So accountability then springs out of that relationship. Um, and again, I think in our experience, certainly my personal experience, but Neg's experience with TBN, it's one of the things we appreciate, that it's not just a pragmatic thing, it's not a contractual thing, but we're developing a relationship. You have been over to Next, and now I'm here. So we can build on those relationships and form true partnerships. But I also think that that partnership also is a very biblical thing. I mean, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 3, I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So that in a global Christian environment, in this age when the church is worldwide, then we do need those partnerships. Not in a way that it's a big brother, small brother partnership, but a partnership of true Christian reciprocity that's built, again, like I say, on relationships. And I find that here in TBN, which for me is a demonstration of what Christian partnership should be. In terms of what might be possible dangers, you probably have heard the story of someone. This guy pulls up somewhere in the desert in the Middle East with his spanking Mercedes Benz, creating dust. Goes up to this farmer and says to him, "I can tell you how many sheep you have." And the guy says, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." Say, "Okay, then tell me how many sheep you have." "I have." So this guy does something on his gadget, electronic gadget. He comes back and says, "This is how many you have." And says, "Okay, well, since you told me, then you can have one of my sheep." So he takes it, puts it in the boot of his car, then he comes back and says to him, "You see, I told you." And the guy says, "Well, you must be a consultant." And this guy is puzzled and says, "Now, how do you know that I'm a consultant?" "Well, because consultants show up uninvited. They ask questions everyone knows, and they know nothing about what's on the ground." He says, "What do you mean you know nothing about what's on the ground?" "Well, because what you just took into your boot was my dog." So I guess one of the possible dangers would be the danger of assuming, of disregarding local context and local knowledge. And therefore, in a true partnership, there has to be ways of negotiating that. I think it's also a matter of good stewardship, as we were discussing earlier, so that what you have to offer is actually useful on the ground and is needed on the ground. And there are ways of doing that so that those sort of things could be minimized. On the other hand, on the side of those of us who are recipients, that we need to avoid the danger of dependency or even the danger of exploitation of the person who gives. But again, where there is a reciprocal relationship built on true understanding of Christian partnership and reciprocity, some of those dangers could be avoided.